Just testing, how we do. Hola, it's Jay today, and I am going to be talking about our first experience inpatient while also doing my other eye of makeup. This is in no way a makeup tutorial because I don't really know how to teach you to do that. The most that I can do is let you watch me do my makeup. So this is the look that I pulled out of my hat for today. Very simple. But, yeah, so I am going to be talking about our experience inpatient and why it was 4 days of pure hell. Basically, I always fucking with my lighting. I never get it right the first time. But I'm just going to show you, some of the palettes that I'll be using today. I'm going to be using this one that I got from a friend, which is Take Me Away Majestic Galaxy. And then I will be using this Violet Voss eyeshadow palette that we got for our birthday last year. And I will be using the Take Me Back to Brazil palette also. So these are the 3 palettes that I will be using for my makeup today. I do probably have about 7, not as much as I want, but I do. I don't really know if you're going to be able to see the steps of me doing it since I'll be looking into our own mirror to get this done. But I've already set our base, and you can already see that I'm pretty progressed in the process right now. But I'm going to start by using eyeshadow primer, and I'll be using the Milani kind, which I got for CVS for about like $4 or $5. I do have a MAC primer that I recently got from the mall not too long ago. A good tip about makeup is like when you go to MAC in places like that, always ask for samples, and that's how you get their product for free basically. So we have like a worth of MAC eyeshadow primer that we just simply asked for and got it for free. Also waiting for the lap or the system to show up, so I don't know when that'll be. Maybe, I think I hear the door. They might actually be here now. But anyway, I am just going to go straight into my story. So basically, we went into inpatient on the 5th, the morning of the 5th. And by then we had already planned that we were going to do that. We probably, like the week before, we decided that we were going to go inpatient for the first time. So our friend takes us out to breakfast first, which was really nice. They took us to Perkins because Perkins is really cheap and we actually really like it. So our friend took us to Perkins for breakfast before they dropped us off at the hospital. We probably got to the hospital around 12 o'clock during the day, and it took maybe an hour or so for us to be, maybe an hour and a half more, for us to be processed and to admission, basically. We're not going to really, actually, yes we are. We went to UBC. We went to University Behavioral Center, and it was pure shit, let me tell you that. So it took us about an hour and a half to get there. We don't have insurance, but they pretty much are going to work it out for where we don't have to pay for the days that we were there, which is really helpful, actually. So once we get in there, we were looking at a pamphlet around about the facility, and it seemed like at first it was going to be really cool and really nice. They had meditation room, a tranquility room, pool, and we even saw like treadmills and a gym there. So we thought that, hey, this is going to be pretty cool, pretty great. We're just going to basically just, spend the time that we were going to be in there to just, work on ourselves and stuff like that. We've been doing really bad mentally for all the trauma that we've dealt with this year. And things were getting a little too heavy for all of us to manage, so we were going to seek out better help. Unfortunately, we didn't receive help at all. Not even, like, once. We never even talked to a therapist, like, one-on-one ever there. Basically, all that stuff that I told you about that was in the pamphlet was all a lie. They no one actually was able to use the tranquility room or the meditation room or the gym. That stuff was basically all for show for like the parents who are considering leaving their child there. That's just that's just to basically get the money, but there not once was anyone ever there, and they mentioned how anyone's rarely able to use that facility. We were actually looking forward to like being able to work out and swim. We really like swimming. And so for that, the first day was pretty crazy. We automatically hated it. Like I'm so serious when I say that we hated it. The next day we asked to leave. Like we woke up and we basically asked the nurse. We told the nurse, we was like, we don't want to be here. We want to go. And since it was voluntary, we thought that it wouldn't be too hard to get out, since we were the one who signed us in, instead of having to be Baker acted or anything like that. However, that was not the way that things worked, apparently. Now, mind you, this was our first time, so we didn't know what to expect at all, Right now, I'm just sitting down. You can't really tell, but I'll take pictures later, but right now I'm just adding pink to the outer smoky eye, and on the inside I am going in with purples. Right now I'm using this pink on the outer corner, and then I'm starting with this, and in darker I'm going with that color, and the Take Me Back to Brazil palette. But, yeah, so back to Inpatient. So Saturday was the first day, and we really wanted to get out of there. It was not working out. Nothing happened. It was actually starting to make things way worse for us, and especially for me. I have been around since preteen ages, so I actually went through a lot of the traumatizing things that we dealt with in our household growing up, and being there was actually very triggering to all of those memories and things that I went through with that like big thing of isolation. We grew up very sheltered and isolated, and our parents were really into like extreme beliefs, and that included not letting us out into the world or anything like that. So that started to bring up old memories of being, everything that I wanted to do was controlled. I wasn't allowed to go outside when I wanted to. I didn't have any freedom, and that place was pretty much doing the exact same thing that our father did to us as a child. And so, that night I was like, this is not going to work. The food was awful, the coffee was awful, the staff was awful. It's like we might have went outside for 20 minutes that day. There was no smoking on the facilities, so we didn't have cigarettes, and we were incredibly sober, and things were just getting a little bit worse, basically. And Saturday, we really struggled with trying to get home. We had told a nurse the second that we woke up that we wanted to leave, but unfortunately, no one actually told us that you had to sign a paper to get it out or anything like that. And we ended up seeing the doctor, and they had, obviously, they asked us what were some of our diagnoses and things, and like the second that we said DID, we were asked if we were dangerous, and we're just like, it was like the worst thing ever, because we are not a danger to your safety, to anything. That's not like our purpose in life, basically. So that was a really awful experience. It also took the doctor hours to show up to our side, because I was like gonna go in and tell him like, hey man, I actually really don't want to be here, and hoping that we can get signed out or get approved to leave the next day. But that did not happen. Basically, he wanted to keep us there until Thursday he wanted to monitor our hallucinations, because we had mentioned that we were hallucinating. It happened for quite some time. I think he was trying to work up a diagnosis of either schizophrenia or schizoaffective, because that is something that we heavily deal with, and things are just getting worse on that spectrum for years, basically, now. And he pretty much prescribed us the same medication that we were already on, and another one of his reasoning of wanting to keep us there so long was to see how this medication was going to work. And we were just like, well, really, that doesn't matter, because we've already been on this exact prescription for like the last few weeks and things like that. And so we only spent like all of 3 to 5 minutes talking to the doctor, so you really had to get out what you wanted to say really quickly, or else that you were going to have to wait until like the next day for him to show up to like plead your case. So some of the questions that we had asked off the bat was like, when can we leave? What is that process? You know, and stuff like that. No one ever told us, one, that they don't do releases on the weekend, so even us asking on Saturday wasn't going to guarantee us out on Sunday. And things just kind of got worse from there. And when I say the food was terrible, like, it was really, really bad. I had even, I had makeup on my hand, and now it's gone. We also told him that we were vegetarian. I myself am vegetarian in the system, and Tyler has also recently been interested in picking that back up. So I think soon we will be reverting back to being vegetarian. And so we also told him that because we were afraid of hospital food, and especially hospital meat. And the vegetarian meat they gave us was extremely terrible. Let me tell you, like, it wasn't, I'm like, you can go to Walmart, you know, and find vegetarian substitute meat and stuff like that. I don't even know where they got that shit from, but that stuff was really gross. Every meal was gross, and we just basically ended up, you know, just eating a bunch of salads, because at least they had like a decent salad bar for lunch and dinner, and for breakfast we just primarily just ate fruit. And the coffee was so bad. I swear to God, the coffee, it was just water with like 3 drops of black food dye. Like, there was no way that was actual caffeine or anything like that. Like, that was such a fucking lie. It was crazy. And just like, after like the first cup of coffee, like, by the time we were done trying to make it decent with sugar and creamer, it was honestly just sugar and creamer. So we didn't have coffee for days because there was no way that we were going to be fucking around with that shit. And the food was giving us really terrible, it was making us sick, basically. It was really bad. It was awful. The third day of being there and eating that food, it hit us hard. And it was not a good experience at all. And I absolutely hated it. I absolutely hated it. Like, I value my coffee, like, a lot. That's all that we really wanted, besides getting out, was actual coffee. So, basically, from there, the doctor did give us some new prescriptions. I don't know what it is, nor have we filled it out, because we're going to wait until we see our psychiatrist who does prescribe us medication to see what she thinks about that. And we really don't want to spend the money on something that we might not end up taking. And not only that, but 2 of the medications that he prescribed us was already 2 medications that we were already on. And so basically, that's what that happened. I just cut the crease. I know you can't really see anything that I'm doing besides what I'm going to show you. So I just cut the crease to the eyelid. So I am actually going to go into this palette. I watch too much makeup videos for me to, like, at least not pretend for like half a second that I know what I'm doing here. I'm going to be using this shade, which is really nice. It's actually really nice when you wet it too. But, so, basically all that we did while we were in there, we just colored a lot, because I understand why so many people ends up coloring so much while in the hospital, because there honestly is nothing else to do. And when there's so many people there, if you're lucky enough to have a TV, it's also very hard to, like, you know, basically watch what you want or things that you like and things like that. There was, like, old people in there that really were very connected to the TV and pretty much dictated what we watched until, like, after they had left, which was, like, on the Saturday, which was pretty good, because from then on out, we had a little bit more leeway on what we watched, and we had more of a voice and an opinion in that situation and stuff like that. So, I'll probably end up showing you some of the colorings that we did, maybe at the end of the video, or on Twitter. I probably should have found those first, and, like, I could have showed you guys during the video, but honey, I'm not that prepared. So we just colored a lot, and we definitely did a lot of pacing up and down the halls, and we pretty much work out, because I'll admit that I had some worries about gaining weight in the hospital, because we weren't able to, like, really control what we were eating. We were unaware of the calorie amount, and we have, spent a lot of time trying to lose weight, and I was afraid of backsliding, basically. basically. But that didn't really happen. So we basically just walked around. We colored. We talked to some people, but not a lot of people were very coherent. So it didn't really, go too far, but that's fine. We did make some people worth remembering. However, I just realized we had never, found them on Facebook or anything like that. Like, we have their information, but we never did anything after we got out of it. Man, the voice is so deep today, which I guess it makes everyone else happy, but I used to like when our voice was a little bit more higher. As you know, I am cis female, so it's not that I have any problem with where the direction of the body is going in, but, back in the day. So I really don't know if there's much else to say besides that, the staff was bad. They made fun of a lot of the patients there. They obviously didn't really care about their job or the people that were there. They gossiped. They made fun of, sometimes in your face to behind other backs. They gossiped about patients and stuff. This was a bunch of stuff that we had noticed during our stay there. Was just the lack of empathy, and you could just tell that these people were simply there just for the paycheck. They didn't actually, care about any of the patients there or anything else like that. They were just doing their shift and going on about their day. I can only imagine the kind of things that they end up saying outside of the hospital and things like that. And they were not very trans friendly. When we got assessed, they asked her what our gender was, and obviously we usually say trans non-binary. And we told them our pronouns, and they knew that we were on hormones. However, that didn't really stop them from spending the entire time misgendering us and things like that. We were also placed on the female side of the hospital, which was not a problem with us, considering a lot of our trauma came from cis men this year. So we were a little bit less hesitant about that. So I'm going to do my eyeliner real quick, which is going to be really hard to talk to. Going to fix that over there. I actually really need to go get eyeliner. Look, man, that's so dried out. It's so dried out. I wonder if Scarlett's here. I'm not really sure. I have the door semi-closed in here, so if they are here, they're probably being respectful and waiting for me to stop talking on this video. So I'm gonna... And what does that say? We're already at 17 minutes. This is already a long video, which means it's going to take forever to load and edit, and always that possibility of no one sticking around to finish it. But if you made it this far, so far, well, we definitely thank you. And I thank you for spending this time with me and listening to me rant and stuff like that. Nice and precise. Wow, we really, 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 really need eyeliner. This is, becoming really hard. It was really hard for me to do the eyebrows because we were lacking... Did I say concealer? I think I said concealer. I'm pretty sure. We need eyeliner. I mean, you can always use concealer. Pretty much the holy grail of makeup. I would love to know what kind of, makeup looks that you guys do, and if you're like us, the looks of makeup that we do vary about with who's out. With me, I like to say I like to play a lot with pinks and purples and more colors around that, but we still generally tend to have very colorful makeup. But especially with me, you're gonna find a lot of pinks, which Tyler does not do. Tyler likes more darker makeup, and if Liam does makeup, which is rare, I rather come to the front and do it for him than for him to have to deal with it by himself and ruin a bunch of products. But, yeah, so there really isn't much left to say about the hospital, except for on Monday we had a very traumatizing experience. We were assaulted by another patient there, and it took 8 hours and 3 to 4 different staff members for someone to really give a shit about what happened to us. Basically, the group therapy rooms were on the male side of the hospital, and we were having groups back-to-back because it was Monday, and they wanted to, well, basically the staff just wanted to, really do nothing. So they were rushing us through all of our groups that day. they locked, they locked our bedrooms, which is where our bathroom was, which was also really another triggering thing, was like having to like give up control completely to someone else. Like, they even controlled if we were allowed to go to the bathroom. Not only was outside of great privilege and stuff, they also would make us wait around 20 minutes until someone actually gave a shit and came and unlocked the door so we can go to the bathroom. It was awful. It was really awful. We're just putting on some mascara. Nice, nice. Fluffy. So basically, the group room was on the male side, and it was taking a long time for a nurse to come and unlock the room, or even for the therapist to show up for the group. And so we were basically left on that side of the unit, and we were screaming out to the nurses in the techs because we were right by their desk, but they were all gossiping with one another. We were telling them that we didn't really belong on this side, and all the men started to surround us because they saw us like basically abandoned on their territory. And so we were getting very anxious, and then there was a guy who kept getting in our face calling us Allison, and we were just like trying to convince him that we weren't who he thought we were, while also trying to get someone's attention to let us back on our side because the doors were all locked and you had to have a special badge to get anywhere. And so it's not like we could have just walked back to our side and gotten out of that situation. But basically a tech finally comes and he leads us all outside in a single line, and that guy who kept calling us Allison got in line behind us, and he ends up grabbing us by the waist and is trying to reach around and, grab their hoo-ha. And he whispers into our ear saying that he's going to rip out of our hair. And it was really awful. It was very scary. And when we started to scream, the tech kind of just laughed at us and didn't really do anything about the situation. And we turned around and ran back in. And at that point, we were just banging and screaming at the door and being begged to be let back on that side because this guy thought what he was doing was very hilarious. And we were very traumatized. And we told the tech that let us through the door didn't even care, didn't even look at us when we were screaming that someone had touched us and that we were scared. She didn't even look at us. She just waved her badge over the door and continued her conversation with the other techs and nurses. I lost my eyeliner pencil. I don't even think I ever had it. Excuse me while I do this, because it's really important for me to line my water line. To line my water line. Line your water line. What a tongue twister. Oop, I found it. So yeah, so she didn't even look at us. She didn't care. And we were desperately trying to get out of the hospital, so we just kind of went and dissociated and cried in our room. We didn't want to be too upset because we were afraid of them trying to keep us longer when at that point we were really struggling to get out of there. Can y'all do that? It's really important to color your water lines. Alright, we're almost done. This is great. So that happened, and we just ended up crying in the bathroom, which was only covered by a sheet. You couldn't have the door closed. There was no bathroom door. And if you've been an inpatient, this is probably a lot of things that you already know. If you haven't, well, then I hope that you are learning a bunch of things. And even though we had a shitty experience with inpatient, doesn't mean that you might have the same. Your facility may be way better. However, if all the reviews of that place are telling you how bad it is, we would suggest listening to them. We had wished that we had taken the ratings of that place more into consideration before necessarily doing that, and we had a bunch of outside opinions saying that, yeah, this should be good for you, this will probably be good for you, even though it wasn't. But we were lucky, and the Lapis system came and visited us that Sunday during visitation hour, which was really, truly a blessing. We weren't even expecting them to show up, but during visitation hours, you know, the nurse comes and is like, hey, you have a visitor. And we're just like, well, who is it, you know? But the Lapis system looked up the visitation hours and came and saw us. At that point in time, we thought that we would have been out the next day because we had talked to the doctor. And he was like, yeah, I'll let you go on Monday. And so they brought us some books and some things, but we didn't end up needing it because we were supposed to be leaving. That didn't end up happening. The doctor the next day, when, you know, we were waiting forever. We probably waited until like 5 until that happened. And the incident with the other patient had happened before that. So we really had to keep our composure because we had not seen the doctor yet. And we didn't want anyone trying to keep us there longer by trying to say that we weren't making any progress, basically. So we had to suck it up. We repressed the memory and all the trauma that we were basically dealing with in that hospital. And when we see the doctor that day, he basically is like, yeah, you're not leaving. He was trying to be like, I wouldn't lie to you. I said Thursday. And I'm just like, yeah, you said Thursday the first time, but on, you know, Sunday, you said that I could leave today, which was Monday at this point. And he was like, nope, not true. But we were able to convince him to let us go on the 9th, which was Tuesday. And at that point, we had been waking up around 6:30. So we got him to set the time that we could be released at 7 a.m. because we wanted to be out there, like, the second that was possible. Like, honestly, it was crazy. We ended up running out when we were released. Like, honestly, we couldn't bear to be there one more time. We felt super suffocated. They were doping us on a bunch of medication and even things like Benadryl and stuff. We were taking maybe like 8 pills while we were in there. We weren't smoking cigarettes or weed. I was having a lot of flashbacks from, you know, growing up and how that situation was basically how our childhood was, which was also affecting everyone else in the system who had not necessarily been through that kind of treatment that I had dealt with earlier on in the body's life. And we were all taking it very hard, and especially after the assault with the patient, Liam ended up splitting because he is our system protector, and this was the 3rd incident this year where we have gone through traumatic experiences dealing with sexual assault and rape. And he just basically felt very helpless, and he ended up splitting into a dog. So now we have an animal alter. That's very different, and it's very interesting, but he did what he needed to do, and I'm hoping that he is able to forgive himself and not blame himself for us for this happening, because it was not his fault at all. But he is heavily dealing with that. But yeah, so now we have a dog alter. If you have an animal alter, we would definitely love to hear from you and how that works and how this animal has worked its way into your system. So if you have any advice with that, then that would be amazing. It says 28 minutes, guys. Alright, so I am really ringing in the end of this video. So I was probably going to show you guys doing my face paint, but considering that this is already 30 minutes, I don't think that that's necessary. So I am just going to add this glitter that I have on the other eye, on this eye. Wow. Add one more. And bam! I have just completely recreated the look on my other eye. I have completely given you our story about Inpatient. It was awful. We were lucky. We got picked up by our older sibling by choice from the hospital, and they spent the whole day with us, and they bought us lots of coffee because, honestly, that's what we wanted the most. We had tried recording this video earlier in the week, but it has been a little bit harder for us to readjust getting to it, and it's really hard to think that just a week ago we were in the situation, and it already feel so distant and almost like it didn't happen from how badly things were repressed. We wish that we at least saw a therapist, because the group therapy was not helpful at all. There was a lot of things that they weren't taking into consideration. They were basically telling us that we had control over our thoughts and our actions and things like that. So it's just basically, which is like, you can just choose to not be depressed or suicidal. They weren't really considering anyone that has intrusive thoughts or BPD such as we do. And we just basically had to fake it that entire time after Friday, that we were okay, that everything they were doing was okay, and that they were actually a great facility, only because we wanted to be released as soon as possible. However, UBC is not great at all. If you're in Orlando, we recommend not going there at all. So thank you so much for sticking around and watching this video and watching me do my makeup. Maybe later on, we will do a more intricate makeup video instead of you just watching me do it. Maybe a little bit more of a tutorial. Maybe we'll do a video where Tyler does one eye and I do the other eye, and we see what basically comes out. But I really am thankful for you guys watching this video. I'm going to have a link to our Twitter here, and I'll also be including the link to our GoFundMe down below. We are trying to move to Washington, and next month we actually have to be out by the 31st. So even sharing the link or donating $1 is really helpful for us, and it can really help us heal and to get out of this place, because Florida is just getting worse and worse as we stay here longer. But thanks, guys, and we love you very much, and see you next time.